Most men operate under a fundamental and ultimately self-sabotaging misconception that a woman's initial level of interest is a fixed, unchangeable verdict, much like a switch that is either permanently on or off. They interpret a lack of immediate spark or a lukewarm response as a final judgment, a life sentence of disinterest from which there is no appeal. This belief is not only flawed, but it's a complete lie that paralyzes men into inaction, or worse, pushes them into counterproductive behaviors. The reality is that attraction for women is not a logical decision, but a dynamic emotional current. Emotions are not static. They're complex, fluid, and highly susceptible to influence based on behavior, perception, and context. What a woman feels today can be radically different from what she feels tomorrow, depending on the stimuli she receives. The critical mistake, the trap that almost every man falls into, occurs the moment he senses this disinterest. His innate reaction, driven by a combination of desire and anxiety, is to default to the worst possible strategy. He tries harder. He believes the problem is a deficit of attention, so he pours more of himself into the void. He chases with more texts. He overexplains his intentions. He seeks more opportunities to be seen, and he forces his way into her attention, operating under the tragic assumption that sheer volume of effort and exposure will eventually overwhelm her resistance and win her over. It assumes attraction is a transaction where enough nice guy coins inserted will prize out affection. True connection isn't built through relentless one-sided pursuit. It is sparked through intrigue, mystery, and emotional resonance. The journey to changing her perception begins not by leaning in with more force, but by understanding the counterintuitive power of pulling back, creating the space for her own curiosity to take root and grow. This principle is rooted in a fundamental law of human psychology. People inherently assign greater value to what is scarce, elusive, or not fully guaranteed. We see this in economics, in marketing, and most profoundly, in interpersonal dynamics. When you make yourself overly available from the very beginning, responding to her every message instantly, filling her inbox with compliments and structuring your schedule around the hope of her attention, you accomplish one thing. You make yourself predictable and common. You effectively place yourself on a silver platter, announcing that your validation is a cheap commodity, readily available without any effort on her part. There is no chase, no mystery, and most importantly, no perceived value. This behavior broadcasts desperation. And desperation is the ultimate repellent of genuine attraction because it signals a lack of self-worth and options. Conversely, the powerful shift occurs when you consciously step back. When you demonstrate through your actions that her initial disinterest does not destabilize you or dictate your self-worth. You instantly become an anomaly. You're no longer just another man vying for a crumb of her validation. You transform into a puzzle she hasn't figured out. This intrigue is the essential initial spark that can eventually grow into her missing you. By becoming strategically scarce, by moving with quiet purpose in your own life, you intentionally rob her of the easy answers and predictable patterns she's accustomed to. This forces her mind to actively engage and do the work for you. The silence you create, she begins to mentally replay your limited interactions, scrutinizing your words and energy. She starts generating her own questions. Why isn't he pursuing me like the others? Did I misjudge him? Could he have other options? And this self-generated curiosity is the very engine of missing someone. It is no longer you trying to convince her of your value. It is her brain on its own, beginning to assign it. The practical application of this psychological principle is both simple and brutally difficult to execute. To make a woman miss you, you must consciously withdraw your presence. You do not bombard her with attention. Instead, you strategically starve her of it until, paradoxically, she begins to crave it. This requires a level of discipline that most men lack, because in the moment, silence feels overwhelmingly like failure and loss. An insecure mind spirals, convinced that if I don't text her, she'll forget I exist, or if I don't remind her of me, she'll easily move on. This deep-seated fear is the very chain that keeps men trapped in a hopeless cycle of pursuit and rejection. The counterintuitive truth, however, is the exact opposite. If she has already signaled a lack of interest and you respond by doubling down on your pursuit, you are not making yourself memorable in a positive way. She is not forgetting you, she is actively building a case against you, mentally filing you away as another clueless guy who doesn't understand social cues or respect boundaries. This breeds resentment, not attraction. The transformative shift happens when you stop chasing entirely, when you halt the flow of validation and redirect all that energy and focus back into building your own life. You create a powerful and jarring contrast. You suddenly become the man who doesn't follow the predictable pattern of those who throw themselves at her feet. You are the one who withholds the instant, easy validation she has come to expect. This contrast, this break from the script, is what plants the potent seed of intrigue. While other men are busy drowning her in a sea of predictable attention, you are the only one who had the confidence to leave her with a silent, empty space. It is in that void that her curiosity is forced to activate. That wondering, that emotional space you deliberately left behind will echo in her mind far longer than any 1,000-word text ever could. Silence, therefore, is not your enemy or evidence of rejection. It is your most powerful and underutilized weapon. All of this strategy is utterly worthless if it is not built upon a foundation of authentic self-respect. The entire concept collapses if your withdrawal will be pity or contempt. The only foundation that works is genuine, unshakable self-respect. This process is not about tricking a woman into liking you. It is about embodying the principle that you refuse to beg for a place in someone's world. It is the conscious act of valuing your own time, energy, and attention so highly that you will not devalue them by offering them freely to someone who has shown no interest in reciprocating. This means you must be actively building a life so full, rich, and focused on your own mission goals and passions that a woman's validation becomes irrelevant to your sense of self-worth. You must reach a point where you are genuinely okay with walking away. It's not as a calculated bluff, but as a peaceful acknowledgement that she simply does not meet the standards you have set for your own life. This authentic strength, the quiet certainty that you are a complete and purposeful man with, or without hers, what truly rattles a woman's perception because it is so incredibly rare. When she feels that level of real detachment, it creates a powerful and unsettling sense of longing on her part. She will instinctively compare you to the legions of men who begged, groveled, and negotiated for her attention. And she will be forced to realize you are fundamentally different. And that difference, that quiet integrity, is what women truly remember and are drawn to. It is the core of all lasting attraction. The ultimate objective of internalizing these principles is not merely to win over a specific woman, but to catalyze a complete and permanent shift in your own power and perspective. This journey is far less about her and infinitely more about mastering yourself. It is about gaining sovereign control over your own need for external validation, taming the compulsive urge to chase, and finally dissolving the deep-seated fear of loss that has dictated your actions for so long. When you achieve this, you undergo a fundamental transformation. You cease to be the man who anxiously begs to be chosen, and you become the man who calmly, confidently does the choosing. This mindset allows you to correctly interpret a woman's initial disinterest You understand that her no is rarely a final verdict on your worth as a man. It is most often just the truth of her feelings in a single moment, and feelings are notoriously fluid. They can and do change when met with silent strength, self-possession, and respect. You also must accept the liberating truth that sometimes she will let you walk away and never look back. This is not a failure to be mourned, but a form of clarity, to be embraced. It is the universe revealing that she was never a compatible partner, saving you immense future pain. However, if she does begin to miss you, the silence works, and she rethinks her initial position, the dynamic is irrevocably changed. The power is no longer in her hands. The ball is now squarely in your court. You are the one who gets to decide, from a place of strength and discernment, whether she has now demonstrated that she is worth your time and energy. This is the real victory. It has nothing to do with her, and everything to do with the quiet, unshakable confidence that comes from the profound knowledge that your value is not defined by anyone's interest but your own. And that very quality, the aura of a man